Welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing working on my 5th gen. As you can see, I have the coolant tank pretty much for the most part mocked up. Wow, there are sweat beads out here like crazy. Pretty much mocked up. I do need to still modify the electrical connector for the sensor, but that is what we're getting ready to do. Actually, I already cut it, as you can see, and I'm getting ready to add my own connectors. And then I have to do the same thing on this sensor as well. So I did call Fleece and they said that's basically just resistance and that it doesn't really matter. But the way I'm going to wire it up, I'm going to use one connector. Let's see, here they are. This place is a mess. I'm going to use this style connector on each of those wires on the one side, and then these on the other side. That way, if for some reason that is wired incorrectly, the wires are flip-flopped, it's simple as unplug and plug into the correct areas. Versus if you use one of these on the one side and this on the other, they're not really universal. You can't really flip them. So if you do it this way, they're easy to be flip-flopped, and we will tidy that up underneath there. I have basically everything converted into an AN fitting, except for the pipe coming out of the block, which I actually have the fittings to do that. But the heater core hose coming off of the bottom of the two lines running this way, I have it cut right there temporarily. Whenever I take the turbo and the manifold off, or take the turbo and the downpipe off, excuse me, I'll probably cut it closer up in there, and then the fitting won't be here. But I do like having the fitting there because if I ever want to flush the heater core, it's simple as reach in there, 2 wrenches, undo that, and then undo this other one, and then I can flush the coolant system or flush the heater core. But it's tucked up in there pretty good. I actually have one of these P clamps that's going to go up underneath there on the firewall, and there's actually a nut on the firewall that it's going to get bolted to. I don't know if you can see it up there. I believe it's one of those two. But on the radiator, people were asking about this because I saw the pictures. This is just to reinforce it. It was a little wobbly, and this is just to reinforce this. This is JB Weld right here on the plastic to make sure this is nice and strong, because there is a little bit of tension on this. But as you see, we can move it. There's absolutely no movement now on this part. But that is a 6AN, and I believe this is a quick connect fuel fitting is what's considered, but it converts it to an AN, and then this screws right on. This shoots straight down, and I actually drilled and put a riv nut in this. And then also before I did that, I painted it so there's no rust happening. But this is threaded now, bolts there, so this stays nice and tight. Comes across. I have one here and here. This is actually the factory bolt. I need to cut the rubber off a little bit, but this is the factory bolt. And as you see, all these lines are nice and secure. There's the first coolant line, and then the one that comes off the bottom side of the water pump is right there. That is all tightened up as well. Runs up here, -10, runs along this. And I also have another one of those clamps down there that I drilled. Actually, this one was already pre-existing with one of those little Christmas tree clips to hold this line in. But I went ahead and drilled it out a little bit bigger and painted it, and then put the riv nut in. And then it runs up into this one, nice and tight, right into the bottom of the tank. As well as the upper 6AN line runs up through here, runs in behind, runs right up and into the top of this, into another 6AN, 120 degree. Now I've already checked this, so when the hood shuts, nothing is getting hit whatsoever. Even with my new coolant cap on here, which stitched a little bit up a little bit higher. It's about, I think, about 1/4 inch higher than this. And then on the back side, since there is a sensor going to be in this, you really can't go straight out like this one does. So I have a bulk fitting, or sorry, a banjo fitting into a 45 degree, and whenever I put my sensor in, that will kick out enough and give it room to be in there. So I wanted to go behind this, but it's just not really, applicable. And I don't know, I think I like this setup a lot better. But as you can see, I did paint my bracket black, and things are pretty much tied up out of the way. I do have the battery cable, the ground, temporarily zip tied right here. When this goes away, we will address how we're going to do that. But battery cable comes up here, runs along, ties into the existing wire that was coming out of the cowl right here. This was a power wire, but I actually turned it into a ground wire by taking it off of that terminal and putting it on that terminal. It's just the one wire, which turned into a ground, and then it runs all the way around here. Instead of adding on a bunch of extra and worrying about where to go, it goes right back to the block where it originally was, down there. And now I'm gonna have to run and get another one of these to ground the block to the body, which is what we're gonna be doing next. I'm still waiting on some clamps to actually tidy some of this up, especially whenever I have the other line in here, but it'll get us by for now. I should have it by this Friday. But going over to the power side, it's very hard to run power wire unless I tied it off of that. But then I'd also have the same issue of I need a ground wire to go over there. But ran the power wire off the alternator, ran it across, down underneath all this, and then straight across, and it's gonna go to that battery. Now, this, I believe, instead of having it nice and exposed in red, I believe I'm going to put some wire loom on it. I have some Alex Tech white wire loom here on the way, and I believe it's going to tidy all this up because it'll be all white and it'll tie in with the white and the powder coat. But it is coming together pretty well. Still need to do some tidying up on that side. And then back here, I still need to clear coat these caps. But I have a Point Blank Performance Billet windshield washer cap. I know, I'm bougie. And then I have a Sinister Diesel coolant reservoir cap, which I was wanting to powder coat this, but the underside is plastic and I did not feel like trying to pry it apart. This, on the other hand, is not that big of a deal. I went ahead and painted it white to match. I actually got some Duplicolor to match the paint exactly, PW7, and it seems like it's going to match pretty well. And then back there, my Hot Shot Secrets coolant just showed up. But enough talking. I'm gonna go ahead and get to working on this and see where we catch up to. It is very warm outside, but I believe we are about ready for first fire. I have everything wrapped up. I started putting a little bit of coolant in to make sure there's no leaks. This fitting down here was actually leaking, and I put pipe thread on it, as you can see, and I believe that stopped it from leaking. This right here is from where it was a minute ago, but I have about half a gallon now, and it's not leaking yet. We are going to go ahead and continue to put coolant in it, and then after I have, a gallon or so in it, I think we're going to fire it up. So we'll go ahead and continue, and I will let you know when we fire it up. First fire went well. Waiting for the thermostat to open up to drain the rest of the coolant in, but there is no leaks as of yet. Truck fired up, no issues with one battery. It did crank this, I'd say it's barely slower, but still fired up. The plan will be to put another battery under the bed eventually, but for now, we're just gonna run with the one. We will see what it does whenever the thermostat opens up. There happen to be no coolant leaks. The coolant pipe, or the AN fitting that I have for coolant going through it, is steaming a little bit, but that's because it was soaked in coolant whenever I pulled the funnel out. So that is just steaming. I'm sure that'll go away when it dries up. But there are no coolant leaks. That is from where I pulled that, and it just made an absolute mess. I will have to clean up some, but it's basically good to go. The battery seems to have no issue, and the 180 thermostat is holding up strong. As you can see, 181 temp. It used to run at 188 to 190, and my battery voltage is right there at 14 volts, 13.9, 14 volts. I believe we are good to go. But I'm gonna get the engine bay wrapped up, and I hope to make a video next week and recap, make sure everything's good. I might add it into this video, not sure yet, but I don't want to make this video too long. I'm sure I will go back over everything I've done. I just wanted to get everything out of the way and finished. I plan to go down to a single or a dual battery, but I have to relocate it behind the bed. But that's gonna be a whole nother video. But until next time, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification, and we'll see you next video.